Arrays are great in themselves, right? Because it allows us to put elements into this container and we can loop through, we can do a lot of things. But it would be nice if we had a different, a more sophisticated way to have containers that are a little bit more flexible, right, in a sense. So Java is always improving. And they have come up with this collections type called ArrayList, right? So an ArrayList is essentially the same thing as an array, but a little bit polished, a little bit sophisticated, or a more 2.0 of an array. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at this. So I created a new project called Java ArrayLists. So I urge you to do the same. So how do we create these array lists, right? So we say that array list is essentially the same thing as an array, but a little bit more flexible, a little bit more sophisticated. Okay, so with an array list, we can now do things that we weren't able to do with just plain arrays. First of all, the array list is great because it gives us more power. It gives us a lot of methods that we can use in order for us to manipulate data. So if we go back to our docs, Java docs, right? This link here, docs.oracle.com, Java SE 7 docs API. If we go to the util package, so let's go to packages and find java.util, should be at the bottom here, there we go, util. And in our classes, we go to let's find array list, there we go, and you can see array list. And this is the syntax, right? It has angular brackets, and we have to put inside of that angular brackets the class types that will hold the arrays, right? So, and you look at the methods here, you can see for method, we have description, we have method description here, we have add, which means we can just put a string if that's the array type, array list type we created. We can add stuff, we can add collections and so many things. We can clear, which removes everything from our array. We can check to see if that array list contains a certain object, a string or an integer or whatever we have specified. Okay, we can get, so we can just use that array list and pass in an index, an integer as the index, and then it will give us the item inside of that index. Okay, we can check if it's empty. So you can see there's a lot of things we can do with our array lists. Okay, now how do we create an array list in Java? Okay, let's go back to our Java here. So how do we create? Well, we go ahead and say array list, and right away we have here so array list java.util, that's the package, right? And you can read a little bit about what an array list is, what it does, and so forth, right? You can scroll up and down and have a sense of what this is. Okay, but for now we're gonna just say enter, and then look what happens. We have this angular brackets here, right? This less than and greater than, and inside we have to put the type, the object, the types that we are going to put inside of this array, right? In this case, we're going to go ahead and say string, right? So that's the type, and we have to give a name. We can call this animals because we're going to be an array list of animals, and we're going to instantiate it. So it's new array list, and there we go. Okay, so now what's happening here is saying, well, we created an animals array list of type strings. So the syntax may be a little bit confusing, but just think of this, whatever we put inside of this angular brackets here, it will be the type of elements we're going to be able to put inside of our array list. Okay, now here's the beauty. So if we go back to our documentation here, we have this add method here, right? And it's overloaded. This add here, and this another add here, which has different signature, different parameters or arguments. Okay, let's go ahead and start adding things to our array list. Now remember, this is still an array, but it's a sophisticated one because we have more flexibility now, right? And notice also, we did not have to specify the size of this array, okay? Because this array has elasticity, meaning that it can grow as big as we want it to grow, right? We don't have to specify it, okay? Unless we know exactly how many, like say if you know exactly you need to have 300, length of 300, and you would put here, but you don't really need to do that. Okay, perfect. So now that we have created our animals array list, we can go ahead and say animals, there we go, and dot, and look at that. We have all these methods here we can use. Okay? And just to remind you, if we go back to our Java arrays here, if we look at one of our arrays that we created, let's say these are strings here. Let's see what's going to happen. Say R strings and hit dot. Look, all we have really that pertains to our R strings is should be the length int. Okay, the rest are just methods or behaviors that come from the big object class, which we haven't talked about. Okay, so you can see the difference here. Now we don't have a lot of flexibility when we talk just about straight arrays. All right, so I just wanted to make a point there. So let's go back to our array list here. So we can say animals.add. We can go ahead and add a string here. So we can say, for instance, let's say dog. Okay, so add more monkey, cat, donkey. All right, there we go. So now we have all of this that we've added. The other thing we can do, since we are talking about array lists and we know we have a lot of things we can do with it, right? If we say, for instance, we want to see what is the length or the size of this array list, we have a way of doing that. So let's go ahead and say system.out.println. Let's say size. If we say animals.size, there we go. Right? And notice something here. It doesn't say length. It gives us a size. Okay? There we go. And if we save, let's run this and say size 4 because we have 4 items. Okay? That's perfect. Now, how do we iterate through our array list? Now, there's a new way I'm going to show you how to safely and efficiently iterate through an array list. Now, we could have done this. We could have said for int I is equal to 0, I is less than animals dot size, right? And then I plus plus, and then say system dot out dot println, and just go and say animals. Okay, just printing things out here and say animals dot get index and pass in I. Okay, if we save this and run this, we would get all of that: dog, monkey, cat, and monkey. That's perfectly fine. Let's comment that out, right? So that's perfectly fine, right? That's beautiful. That's great. Now there's another for loop that I'm going to show you here, which is really nice. So we can say for, and inside here we're going to go and say string, which is going to be our holder variable. We're going to call this string what? Let's call this animal, and we say colon. And then we say animals, which is our array. Okay, and now here, say system.out.println, and we say animals. And check this out. All we have to do is just say animal. Look how beautiful and clean this is. Right? So now what we've done the same thing here, but it's much cleaner. So we create, the way this works, we create a string animal. That's a variable that will hold all of these animals that we are getting from our array list. And then we say colon, and then we have to pass in the actual array list, which is animals. And then in our system.out, we simply just call the animal, which is the variable here. So as it goes through, it's dumping all of the animals inside of our array list into our animal variable, and then we can use that to retrieve our animal items. Okay, so if we save this, let's go ahead and comment that out and run. You won't see any difference because it says we still see dog, monkey, cat, and donkey. In fact, just to differentiate, let's say animals are, so we know exactly that we are getting from here. So there we go. That's the newer way of doing things, so let's get rid of that. Now, still inside of our array list, let's check out other things we can do, right? We can, of course, go ahead and say animals array list dot. Let's see. We can again, we can check whether or not the array list is empty, right? Because this one will return a boolean. So essentially what we could do, if we want to check, we can say if, right, animals dot is empty, because that either returns true or false. We can say system dot out dot print animal is empty. Okay, else we go ahead and iterate through. I just copy that and paste here and show all of the animals. How fun is that? Let's run this, and there we go. If I say animals that remove, look at this. I have a few removes here. I have this remove. We can pass in an index, right? If we want to remove, let's say dog, we can go ahead and say 0. Save. Okay, let's run this and see what's going to happen. Look, we don't have a dog anymore. We can also go ahead and remove the object or remove the actual animal that we have inside of our array list if we wanted to, right? So now here we can pass in, let's say I want to remove cat, just like that. Save this. Let's run this. Look at that. There's no more cat, right? Let's get rid of this so we have at least other ones, right? So we have dog, monkey, but there's no cat because we did remove cat. Check this out. We can even do other things. Say animals dot contains. Look at this here. So returns true if this list contains the specified element. So meaning we can even check whether something is inside of our animal array list, right? Let's say we want to check if cat exists. So what we could do, actually, let's put in a if statement. You can say if, okay, animals dot contains dog. Animals contains dog. If this array list has dog in it, we want to do something. Let's say we want to remove it and add something else, right? So we can say animals dot remove that object, which is what? Dog, okay? Else we can say, well, we want to add something else. We can animal dot add chicken. Why not? Okay, so let's run this. Run. Animals are monkey. Animals are donkey. Let's do like this. And there we go. So everything removed. And then here we're going to go ahead and take this and put here. Let's get rid of this. Save. Let's run. There we go. Monkey, donkey. Okay. So there's a lot of things you can do with array lists. And obviously, we did here array lists of type strings. We can obviously do integers. We can do booleans. We can do whatever else we want. All right. And I'll leave that to you. Go ahead and explore other types as well. So go ahead and play around with array lists and add things, remove things, find index and all of this stuff. I always get excited when I start talking about array lists and objects and how to, because it's just such a cool and well thought out process library to where there's so many things you can, so many things you can do with pre-baked code with these libraries that we are given by the Java folks, right? People who created this wonderful language. All right, so go ahead and explore this and have some fun, and I'll see you in the next video.